Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be counting down the top 25 best metal albums of the last 25 years. I've seen a lot of people do videos in response to Loudwire's ranking of their favorite 25 records since 2000, and so I saw some channels do responses to that, specifically Bryce Talks Metal and Quest for Metal, so thought I'd try my hand at this as well. That being said, let's get started. Kicking things off here at number 25, I'm going to go with Infernum in Terra by A Pale Horse Named Death from 2021. A Pale Horse Named Death are a wickedly underrated band that I love to talk about here on the channel. Fantastic mix of kind of that Typo Negative sound meets Alice in Chains, so if you're into that, I would definitely recommend checking out this band, formed by former Typo Negative drummer Sal Abruscato out of New York City here, and this is, in my opinion, their best album, also their most recent record here. I just think they keep getting better with every release. It's dark, it's moody, it's perfectly paced, and it captures that slow-burning, gothic heaviness that A Pale Horse Named Death does so well. It's consistent, it's atmospheric, and it's full of soul, with some great standout tracks on here, like Believe in Something, You Are Lost, Cast Out from the Sky, Shards of Glass, Lucifer's Son, Two-Headed Snake, Slave to the Master, Reflections of the Dead. I remember hearing that song when it was released as a single and just immediately being hooked on this band. I mean, so many great songs on here. This is the record that got me hooked on them, and just a personal favorite of mine from the last, several years here, so I wanted to include it on the list. Number 24, Reinventing the Steel, Pantera's last stand here, and it still rips. I have no idea why, people rank the Pantera catalog. This is always down towards the bottom. Why it's so, overhated by a lot of people. I never understood that. The riffs on here are thick, the groove feels huge, and, Dimebag and Vinny are locked in like never before. You've got wild vocals on here by Phil Anselmo, and, fat bass lines as well. Criminally underrated, and in my opinion, one of the most straightforward, fun records with standouts on here that include Hellbound, You've Gotta Belong to It, Revolution Is My Name, Death Rattle, It Makes Them Disappear, and I'll Cast a Shadow. Next up, let's go with Midian by Cradle of Filth from 2000. A really dark, dramatic record packed with atmosphere, and that's something that, Cradle of Filth do so well. Midian blends, gothic grandeur with a raw metal energy, and Danny Filth sounds unhinged in the best way, with soaring and shrieking vocals of a harsh delivery. Just a perfect balance between that chaotic Cradle of Filth sound and great melodies on here as well. Standouts for me include, classic Cradle of Filth tracks like Cthulhu Dawn, Saffron's Curse, Amori Morte, Creatures That Kissed in Cold Mirrors, or Ghost in the Fog, Tearing the Veil from Grace, and Tortured Soul Asylum to close things out. Number 22, let's go with Blood of the Nations by Accept from 2010. Their first album in well over a decade, and their first with new vocalist Mark Tornillo replacing Udo Dirkschneider. And this really ushered in a new era of Accept, an era that's still going on to this day, right? I mean, just a fantastic late career renaissance by the band, fronted by Mark Tornillo here, who makes his presence felt immediately on tracks like Teutonic Terror, The Abyss, Blood of the Nations, Time Machine, Kill the Pain, Rolling Thunder, Pandemic, New World Comin', No Shelter. I mean, his raspy vocals fit the band so well, and this is just a relentless record from top to bottom here, brilliantly produced by Andy Sneap as well. It's got that clean Accept sound, and a new era of the band, although it still sounds familiar. It sounds like old school Accept, just with a modern twist, and so, still the best album, I would say, of the post-reunion era, but really all of those Tornillo era albums have been fantastic, but this one has to be my favorite here. Great way of kind of, re-cementing that, Accept we're back. Next, at number 21 here, I'm going to go with Impera by Ghost. Now, I know not everyone would consider them to be, a metal band. That's a debate that I'm not going to get into. I've always considered them metal personally. If you want to call them pop metal, okay, but you can't deny that Impera is a polished, infectious record that shows Ghost at their most confident to that point. It's catchy, it's theatrical, it's full of character, some massive hooks on here, right? Really catchy stuff. And Impera is where the band perfected their balance of pop and metal. And so for me, it's one of my go-to records, probably one of the albums I listen to most in my collection, a definite comfort album, for me, and this is really the album where I started to get, seriously into Ghost, and so just really impartial to tracks like Kazarian, Spillways, Call Me Little Sunshine, Hunter's Moon, 20s, Darkness at the Heart of My Love is a great ballad. So glad they finally did it live on the Skeletor. Let's see here. Griftwood is great. Respect on the Spittlefields is awesome as well. Got a killer guitar solo that kind of brings the album back full circle by the end of it. So some great attention to detail on this album as well. Ghost, a band that just continued to top themselves with each album, and this was definitely a peak for them creatively. Number 20, we have Self-Titled by Helloween from 2021. The reunion, with the Pumpkins United lineup now at full strength, right? You have Kiski and Kai Hansen back in the band here, and that was a definite shot in the arm that the band definitely needed at this point point, in my opinion. This is just the ultimate reunion done right here. The band sound completely unified, delivering a record that really celebrates every era of the band, which is really cool. It's fast, it's melodic, and a total victory lap for the band. You've got elements here, of course, of power metal, but also some prog on here as well, and some great standout tracks that include Out for the Glory, Fear of the Fallen, Angels, Ride Without Chains, Robot King is great, my favorite song on this record, Cyanide, Down in the Dumps, Skyfall to close things out. Some phenomenal stuff on here, by Halloween, another, late-stage career renaissance, and now with this Pumpkins United lineup, they just released another fantastic album with Giants and Monsters, so great stuff here, and, in my opinion, an album that I would rank right up at the top of their catalog. I'd probably put this right behind, the first three records. That includes, the two Keeper albums and Walls of Jericho, so for me, this is really top-shelf stuff here, and, the best Halloween album in many, many, many years. Number 19, Ashes of the Wake by Lamb of God. This is an album that hits with precision and fury. I mean, every riff is perfectly locked in, and you've got scathing vocals by Randy Blythe. It's a record that, for me at least, definitely does define the 2000s era of metal, and it's sharp, it's heavy, and it's full of adrenaline. Definitely a record that I think a lot of modern groove metal, let's say 21st century groove metal, has been based off of going forward, and so definitely an influential record, and in my opinion, Lamb of God at their absolute best. Number 18, Invincible Shield by Judas Priest, their most recent album here from 2024, and, 50 years into their career, Priest are still turning out epic records, and this is definitely their best album in years, in my opinion, their best since Angel of Retribution, so, yeah, I think very highly of this record here. The guitars sound bright and tightly performed, and Rob Halford sounds incredible here, the best he has in many years as well, and the mix gives, each part clear definition, balancing, a polished sound with, the sheer power of Priest's delivery here, and there's some deliberate pacing here on this album as well, right? Continued technical sharpness as well, and cohesion. Some standouts for me include Panic Attack, Serpent of the King, which I think is the best song of the reunion era, Invincible Shield, Devil in Disguise, Crown of Horns, Trial by Fire, Sons of Thunder, and Giants in the Sky to close things out. I've seen Priest in support of this album now twice, and both times the live stuff they've done from this record has been fantastic. Priest still making awesome albums 50 years into their careers, and it's a great thing to see. Number 17, Dope Throne by Electric Wizard, widely hailed as, a masterpiece of doom metal for its sheer heaviness, atmosphere, and uncompromising vision. Released in 2000, the album captures the essence of sludge and stoner doom with its monolithic riffs, crushingly slow tempos, and thick, fuzzy kind of tone that feels both suffocating and hypnotic. And what makes Dope Throne, really great is its sense of authenticity. It's raw, it's filthy and unpolished, but perfectly cohesive and really embodies the spirit of doom metal as it entered a, new generation here, right, into the 21st century. Every track feels monumental, dragging the listener into an album that's just really transcendentally immersive. Number 16, Annihilation of the Wicked by Nile. This record combines blistering musicianship with, a grand sense of atmosphere. It was released in 2005 and showcases the band's signature blend of, ferocious speed, intricate riffing, and you have ancient Egyptian themed songwriting, which, adds a whole other level, gives it a cinematic feel as well, right? But, you have some great guitar work on here, complex compositions that balance chaos with precision, and George Kolias's drumming sets a new benchmark for intensity and technical mastery. Number 15, Tempo of the Damned by Exodus from 2004. An incredible return to form record for the thrash metal legends. This album is heavy, it's thrashy, it's bruising throughout. This would be the final album with Zedra Souza on lead vocals until 2014, but he goes out with a very strong record here as Exodus, really reestablished themselves on Tempo of the Damned with standouts like Scar Spangled Banner, War is My Shepherd, Blacklist, which is just an all-time Exodus song, Shroud of Urine, Culling the Herd, Seal to the Fist, Impaler, the title track as well. So many great songs on here. This is the band showing that they still had a lot to offer, and they did. They've made so many great records since then, both with Zedra Souza and Rob Dukes, but this is an album that marks their comeback and their return here. The mix is well balanced, highlighting both rhythm and lead sections without excess, and the album's pacing is consistent. The transitions between tracks are handled really smoothly as well, and the performances are, tight and energetic, showing real precision and timing in its delivery. Number 14, I'm going to go with The Mantle by Agalloch, a really powerful and emotional album that mixes black metal with folk and post-rock, something, really unique. And I'd say, released in 2002, it was really ahead of its time as well. It feels haunting and cold, and, one of those records that you really need to listen to, in the dead of winter to fully appreciate. But the mix of, soft acoustic parts and heavier guitar riffs give it both, peaceful and intense moments. So I kind of love that, back and forth there. But what makes The Mantle so great is that it's more than just a straightforward metal record. It's a really moody, atmospheric journey as well, and it still sounds fresh to this day. Next, at number 13 here, let's go with Death Atlas by Cattle Decapitation from 2019, a record that's just, full of crushing riffs, lightning-fast drumming, and guttural vocals by Travis Ryan that, hit really hard, but there's also some moments of, real melody and atmosphere that give it that depth to it. So it's more than just a death metal record here, although it does have, some really brutal moments here and some real intensity to it as well. What makes Death Atlas great is that, it's not just loud and aggressive, but it's a powerful, emotionally charged record showing that, extreme music can be both violent and meaningful at the same time. And that's something that Cattle Decapitation do so well and have, just gotten better with as time has gone on. Number 12, The Mandrake Project by Bruce Dickinson, my favorite album of last year, and of course I had to put something on here for my favorite vocalist of all time. And by the way, I said I'm doing, one per band. This is for Bruce's solo thing, so there definitely will be a maiden pick later on in this video, but The Mandrake Project is marked by, strong, consistent musicianship and really detailed production as well. I just love how much time and thought went into this record here. This album obviously, took a long time to make. I mean, the track Eternity Has Failed predates Book of Souls. So that's how much time Bruce Dickinson invested in this record here, and the arrangements combine, traditional heavy metal with modern design to give the album a really balanced and dynamic quality to it, and Bruce was able to create a really atmospheric and distinct vibe from this record, different from his work in Maiden, and more than worth the wait, after Tyranny of Souls, with an album that I would put on par with Chemical Wedding and Accident of Birth, in the upper echelon of his catalog, with standout tracks on here like Afterglow of Ragnarok, Many Doors to Hell, Rain on the Graves, Resurrection Men, Eternity Has Failed, Face in the Mirror, Sonata Immortal Beloved, and more. Number 11, Kill by Cannibal Corpse, released in 2006. Just a relentless, brutal death metal record here that shows the band at the peak of their ferocity, in my opinion. It's packed with lightning-fast riffs, thunderous drumming, and of course, Corpse Grinder Fisher's, signature guttural vocals that make every track hit hard, and the lyrics, they're dark, they're violent, they're typical of Cannibal Corpse's style, but the album really stands out for me for its tight songwriting and high energy, keeping the listener engaged from start to finish. And what makes Kill great is that it delivers exactly what the fans want: unrelenting intensity with technical skill and a sense of, pure aggressive power that defines modern death metal. And if you follow the death metal content here on the channel, you probably know by now that I'm more of a Barnes era Cannibal Corpse guy than a Corpse Grinder era guy. However, I do think Kill is their best record with Corpse Grinder and probably their best album of the 21st century. Moving into the top 10 here with Surgical Steel by Carcass from 2013, a landmark album that marked the band's triumphant return after a long hiatus, their first full-length studio album since Swan Song, blending, melodic death metal with grindcore in a way that's brutal and catchy, right? And the album features razor-sharp riffs, some really precise drumming, and Jeff Walker's signature growls, all wrapped up in, tight, well-crafted songs. And it's aggressive and heavy, but also melodic and memorable at the same time, showing that Carcass, can still deliver technical mastery. And what makes Surgical Steel so great is that it honors the band's legacy and their past sound and the stuff they've done, prior, but also feels fresh and modern, making it one of the best metal comeback albums of all time. Number 9, gonna go with Endgame by Megadeth. Fantastic record here. It's fast, it's aggressive, it's relentless and thrashy here. And this was exactly the album that Megadeth needed to make in 2009. And, one of their best albums of the 21st century, in my opinion. An album that I would put up there with, some of their all-time best stuff. And love the lineup here, right? You have Dave Mustaine, Chris Broderick, James Lomenzo, and Sean Drover. And they worked really well together. I mean, Mustaine's riffs are sharp, Broderick's solos are amazing, Lomenzo's bass is strong, and Drover's drumming is tight and powerful, and really anchors the whole album. And standouts on this record for me include Dialectic Chaos, This Day We Fight, 44 Minutes, Bite the Hand, Endgame, Head Crusher, The Right to Go Insane, right? I mean, so many great songs on here. A really heavy record by the band, and like I said, on par with some of their all-time best work. Number 8 here, we have Titans of Creation by Testament. This is a top 3 Testament album for me. Its consistency and command of modern thrash is just phenomenal, right? The riffs are tight, the drumming is sharp, and the leads are melodic. melodic without losing its edge. The sound feels very balanced, with every instrument sitting, clearly in the mix here. Nothing kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and the album maintains a really steady energy throughout, using really concise song structures and focused arrangements. The musicianship feels polished on here, but not overly slick. It preserves the directness of the band's core style, and it's a really well-constructed record that highlights precision over experimentation. And oddly enough, they merged both precision and experimentation on Parabellum this year, and I think that was the right move to make, because otherwise I'm not sure how you can even follow this record up with standout tracks on here like Children of the Next Level, World War III, Dream Deceiver, Night of the Witch, City of Angels, Symptoms, False Prophet, Curse of Osiris, and Catacombs to close things out. Next, at number 7, we have Demigod by Behemoth. Demigod, really refines Behemoth's black and death metal sound with precision and focus, and the guitar work is dense, but it's layered too, supported by fast but controlled drumming that anchors the arrangements, and it's an album defined by discipline and consistent execution. And just compare this record to Behemoth's last album from earlier this year, and it's just night and day. Number 6, we have Train of Thought, Dream Theater at their heaviest here in 2003, and some standouts here. You have As I Am, This Dying Soul, Endless Sacrifice, Honor Thy Father, probably the most angry song in the Dream Theater catalog. Vacant is fantastic, right? Kind of a callback to Pink Floyd and Hey You, which I really enjoy. Dream Theater, always a band that wore their influences on their sleeve. That's pretty neat. Your Stream of Consciousness and In the Name of God to close things out. Just top to bottom here, an amazing album, and Dream Theater pursuing a heavier sound here through, much heavier guitar-driven arrangements within Dream Theater's progressive framework. And the album's production is really clean. The instruments retain clarity in even the most complex passages, and love the relationship here between the rhythm and lead parts that really show a strong coordination throughout, and love the transitions and the sections. They feel fluid. The solos are, technically demanding, right? But, I feel like the structures support the flow of each track as well, and I could listen to John Petrucci solo just all day. He does some great work on this record for sure, and the album maintains a really consistent tone throughout, with tight performances and controlled dynamics. And for me, this is my favorite Dream Theater album of all time, just top to bottom, such an angry record, but also super proggy. Moving into the top 5 now with Mastodon and Leviathan. It's heavy, it's epic, and it's really well put together, inspired by Moby Dick. I love a good concept album, and the songs mix, powerful riffs and crazy drumming with, catchy melodies, while telling a great story throughout as well. And standout tracks like Iron Tusk and Blood and Thunder hit hard, but the album has some slower, more thoughtful parts too, and it's intense, it's fun to listen to, and some of Mastodon's finest material. Really a toss-up between this album and Crack the Sky for which one would make my list, but I think Leviathan is just a little bit stronger. At number 4, I'm going to go with Lateralus by Tool. Highly detailed, carefully constructed record, meticulously done by Tool here, and the band uses complex rhythms and gradual song development to create tension, that builds and builds throughout. The instrumental interplay, I should say, really is exact and deliberate. Every part contributes to the overall structure. It's all done so methodically by the band. The production is balanced and transparent, right? And the pacing of the record builds naturally, allowing repetition to evolve into, variation throughout the record. It presents, as Tool's most fully realized integration of technical precision with textural control, with some great standouts on here that I enjoy, like The Patient, Ticks and Leeches, Parabola, Parabolis, right? You also have on here Schism, The Grudge. So many fantastic Tool songs that make up a lot of, their essential stuff. And this whole album, top to bottom, is essential listening. So for me, I had to include it in the top 5 here. Coming in at number 4, I'm going to go with Lateralus. Number 3 here on the list, I'm going to go with Ghost Reveries by Opeth from 2005. Loudwire had Blackwater Park on their list, and, can't disagree with that either. It's a fantastic record, but I just think Ghost Reveries is a little bit stronger. It blends heavy metal and mellow melodic moments just perfectly. It's another masterpiece by Michael Eickerfeld. The songs are long and full of twists with, crushing riffs, haunting melodies, and great vocals, a mix of growls and cleans here. Tracks like The Grand Conjuration and Ghost of Perdition show the band's mix of aggression and beauty, and the album blends dark and emotion with, really catchy material as well, making it one of Opeth's standout records for sure. And they're a band that, in my opinion, do not have a bad album, but this just stands above the rest as some of their all-time best work. Number 2, Absolute Elsewhere by Blood Incantation. I'm getting a little tired of talking about this album because I've been talking about it, I feel like, a lot on the channel lately, but I don't think it's exaggerating to say this is the most important death metal release of the last 25 years. Absolute Elsewhere focuses on atmosphere and instrumental detail while maintaining their technical foundation, and the album blends, dense guitar layering, with restrained pacing, alternating between heavy rhythmic sections and spacious ambient textures here. The production allows the mix to remain open despite the complex arrangements, and the playing is precise with clear sense of control and direction throughout as the band experiment with a number of different things. I mean, there's just something here for everybody, really. It's a melting pot of different styles all into one album here across 2 tablets, as they say, one continuous piece of music here, and just one of those records that you need to sit back and really take all in. I mean, even if you're not a death metal fan, there's really something here for everyone. And lastly, coming in at number 1, I mentioned there'd be an Iron Maiden entry here on the list. Gotta go with A Matter of Life and Death from 2006, my personal favorite Maiden album of all time here, and this album shows Maiden continuing to refine their sound in the post-reunion era with a mature, deliberate approach, and the songs are long and carefully structured, combining progressive elements with their signature sound here, and Steve Harris had mentioned this album being influenced by Dream Theater at the time, and I can kind of hear that, hear influences of some of Dream Theater's heavier stuff like Train of Thought or 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, right? And the riffs on here are absolutely filthy, some of Bruce Dickinson's most commanding vocals as well. Maybe not the first album to come to mind for a list like this, but like I said, my favorite Maiden album of all time, and I think it's aged extremely well, with awesome tracks on here like Different World, These Colors Don't Run, Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, The Pilgrim, The Longest Day, Out of the Shadows, The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. So many great riffs on this album, especially on that song. For the Greater Good of God, Lord of Light, and The Legacy to close things out. It's dramatic and over the top in, the way that only Iron Maiden can deliver here, but some really fantastic stuff, and maybe their heaviest album. So that wraps up this list here, counting down the top 25 best metal albums of the last 25 years. Wanted to, share my spin on this list as well. So you can see my picks right over here, focusing on, the precision of these albums and the intricacies of these records as well, some of the songwriting and really what went into these records. That's what I was focusing on more in this video here. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload. Follow me on Instagram. The channel is now on Instagram. You can find me at the CD Guy JZ, one word, all lowercase. Follow me over there. I'll follow back. And let me know down in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on my picks and what are some of your favorite albums of the last 25 years? I want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD Guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.